Watching Batista's full arc in Dexter Resurrection was so upsetting for all of the true Dexter fans out there. He was one of the most beloved characters of all time. In honor of Captain Angel Batista, here are some of his greatest moments, starting with the way he handled the internal affairs investigation into his partner, Sergeant James Dokes. James Dokes was a good cop in his own right. Not quite as by the book as Angel, but hardly anyone would consider him corrupt. He had great instincts and a dedication to the force that was nearly unparalleled. Despite this, Dokes did have a bit of a temper.
Are you questioning me? Because I got a lot of questions for you.
And occasionally used less than legal means to get his man. In one instance, he was riding in the car with Angel when he saw a man that he recognized from his time in the army as a special ops agent. Jacques Bayard was a member of a Haitian death squad that Dokes faced up against during a special ops mission. James knew that Bayard was a killer and he wanted to take him down by any means necessary. When he saw Bayard walking down the street, James demanded that Angel stop the car.
Stop the car, man. What? Stop the goddamn car.
And when he got close enough, he jumped out of the car and chased Bayard down. Angel wasn't sure what was happening at the time, but he followed his partner to apprehend the perp. But before Batista could catch up to them, he heard 2 shots go off. By the time he reached the scene, Bayard was dead on the ground and James was still standing. He still didn't understand what made James chase after the man that way. He didn't understand what initiated the gunfire. He was only concerned with Dokes' safety. But after it is determined that Bayard died from James' shot, Internal Affairs began an investigation. Angel couldn't be sure that Bayard shot first. Dokes claimed that he only shot at Bayard after he took a shot at him.
He shot first when I came around the corner.
But Angel was almost certain that he heard Dokes' gun go off first.
I heard your 9mm go off before the 38.
He even asked Dokes to confirm the details of the shootout before he went to IA, but Dokes was so defensive, it only confirmed what Batista already believed. He didn't see a gun when Dokes asked him to stop the car. The blood spatter analysis disproved Dokes' account of what happened, and again, Batista was pretty sure that he heard Dokes' gunfire before Bayard's. Altogether, it just didn't seem that Dokes was being honest. But with IA breathing down his neck, demanding a report of Angel's recounting of events, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He didn't want to get his partner in trouble, but he didn't want to lie in his report either. He initially tries to protect Dokes when he is interviewed by IA, but he asks to meet with them again to correct the details he gave previously. He told the truth. He let them know that the blood spatter report debunked Dokes' claims and that he heard Dokes shoot first. This level of honesty could have cost Dokes his job. And back in the office, word got around that Angel talked to IA, prompting his coworkers to mock him and call him a rat.
Squeak, squeak. You have a problem?
He knew that was going to happen, but he did what he thought was right anyway. This is one of the greatest Batista moments because it illustrates how dedicated he was to being a good cop. Cops usually protect their fellow officers from any blowback that could follow a mishandled investigation, even if it means sometimes fabricating evidence or misrepresenting the facts, but not Angel Batista. With qualities like that, it's obvious why he was able to rise through the ranks of his department, but that isn't the only reason, of course. Sure, he has made mistakes, but Angel is a loving person who works hard and spreads positivity wherever he can, even when it's really hard for him. Angel has been with the Miami Metro Homicide Department for decades, and he has always been a stand-up cop. His honesty and commitment to justice makes him a truly unique detective and cop. He doesn't cut corners, and he is relentless in his pursuit to solve every case he can. After Dokes was murdered in Season 2, and Batista was promoted to Sergeant in Season 3,
in 2 days, he will be Detective Sergeant Batista.
it seemed that he was on the fast track to become the lieutenant of the Homicide Department after La Guerta. Maria was promoted to captain after Matthews was promoted to the position of deputy chief. The lieutenant position was open, allowing Batista to become acting lieutenant. Although he expected to be made permanent,
We're celebrating. Looking at the next lieutenant of homicide.
Matthews chose Deborah for the role. It seemed so unfair at the time. Even Deb didn't want to overstep Angel. They had been such close friends for years, and she didn't feel right about taking a job that he was so excited for and quite frankly deserved. Perhaps Matthews really believed Deb was the best person for the job, but it's more likely that he promoted her over Batista to spite Maria. It was definitely unfair, and even though Deb was flattered to be considered, she refused to take it unless and until Batista supported her doing so. so. She was deeply apologetic and wanted to make things right by turning down the job, but Batista told her that the news was great and gave her a big hug. LaGuerta tried to suggest that Deb wasn't good enough or old enough to take the job, but Batista shut all that down. He said that Deb was a great detective and would do a great job as the homicide department's lieutenant. His response to such devastating news highlights exactly how great of a guy he is. Angel is probably the most wholesome character in the entire show. He supports his friends and always sees the best in people, even when being suspicious or cynical may be more effective for his own personal gain. Plus, he is a Class A detective who helped break one of the biggest cases the department ever tackled. In the very first season of the series, Angel was already showing how great of a detective he was. As the homicide department was in hot pursuit of the ice truck killer, they kept finding themselves one step behind the killer. Of course, ITK was going around Miami. He would drain them of their blood and leave the body pieces out in the open as if to taunt the police. He was very adept, however, making catching him nearly impossible. We know now that the killer was Dexter's long-lost brother trying to jog his memory of what happened to their mother by leaving dismembered women in places Dexter would recognize from his childhood. He had been masquerading as an innocent doctor named Rudy Cooper, but it was Angel Batista who found out that his real name was Brian Moser. Batista was already getting close to figuring out the identity of the ice truck killer, leading Brian to track him down and try to kill him. Luckily, he was unsuccessful, but it did leave Batista seriously injured. Even while laying in a hospital with that near-fatal stab wound, knowing that the team had recovered a partial fingerprint earlier in the investigation, Angel thought to search the fingerprint database for the nearest mental hospital, and he got a match. The ice truck killer was Deb's boyfriend, Rudy Cooper, real name Brian Moser. Batista may have been operating off of a hunch when he called in to have the fingerprint analyzed.
ID Tech.
Hey, it's Batista. Hey, do me a favor. I need you to run Rudy Cooper's prints against Psych Mental Institution records.
But it worked, and it allowed the police to narrow down their search and eventually find Deb before she could be seriously hurt or killed. Angel's intelligence and heart are what make him one of the best characters in the show, and this is only one of the ways he displayed just how indispensable he is to the Force. His bravery also plays a key role. A key moment showcasing Batista's prowess as an officer came along in season 4 of the original series. While a lot of the manpower in Miami Metro was focused on helping Frank Lundy and the FBI catch the Trinity killer, that changed after Lundy was fatally shot and Deb was seriously injured in the middle of that investigation. There was a string of robberies turned murders happening in Miami at the time, right alongside the Trinity killings. The team believed that Lundy and Deb were victims of whoever had been robbing and murdering tourists in that case, but police weren't exactly sure who was behind those attacks or how to track that person down. That is, until they found a drop of the perp's blood at one of the crime scenes. It came back to Johnny Rose, a man who had already done time for a crime spree in the past. In his first trial, his girlfriend at the time, Nikki Wald, was discovered to have been an accomplice, and she testified against him to get a reduced sentence for those crimes. Nikki was not initially believed to be a part of his current killing spree, but given their interlinked past, Batista and LaGuerta decided to pay her a visit to get some more insight on Johnny. However, when they arrived at her place, she wasn't there. Just as Angel and Maria turned to leave, Nikki and Johnny turned the corner, and when they saw the cops on her doorstep, they started shooting immediately. Before you watch any further, I'm happy to finally announce that I'm releasing the first limited drop of my t-shirts. At the start, there are only 100 available, so make sure you buy them while you can at dtmerch.store. Enjoy the video. Batista and LaGuerta return fire, but not before Batista moves his body to protect LaGuerta, telling her to get down. He then takes the lead, running down the stairs in front of Maria, gun drawn, still ready to shoot the killer duo if necessary. He was fearless, even in the face of potential death, and beyond that, he was willing to use his own body to protect his partner. Angel is really one of a kind. His selflessness is what led him to all of the success he experienced in his field, and his skills don't end there. He's also an excellent interrogator, wielding willing and able to manipulate suspects that are brought in for questioning. When it comes to law enforcement, Batista is the whole package. One of the most compelling interrogations that Batista participated in was with the Minotaur Slayer, Ray Speltzer. Speltzer had already murdered 2 young women in Miami and gotten away with it due to shoddy evidence. He would trick women into meeting him, trap them in a confusing maze that he'd constructed himself, and hunt them down and beat them to death. After that, he would steal one of their earrings as a trophy and escape. He was violent and horrifying in a very unique way. Speltzer needed to be permanently locked away or eliminated. By this time, Deb knew that Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher. He wanted to take Speltzer out, having correctly figured out that he was getting ready to kill again, but Deb wasn't going to allow that to happen. She ordered Dexter to stay away from Speltzer and let the police handle him. Of course, there wouldn't be much of anything they could do until he already killed or at least traumatized another young woman. Deb knew this and put a detail on his house and eventually went to monitor it herself. The night that she went to surveil Speltzer's home was the very night he had another woman trapped in his newest disturbing maze of death. She runs in to try to help the young woman, but it's no use. Deb is almost killed herself, but Dexter shows up in the nick of time to protect her. Unfortunately for Deb and Dexter, though they make it out alive that night, the young woman dies on the scene. After her death, Speltzer is brought into the station for questioning. It took 4 officers just to take him down and cuff him, but he ended up opposite Batista in an interrogation room all the same. In this scene, we see yet another side of Angel. He tries to manipulate Speltzer into talking by playing on his hatred of women. He pretends to hate Deb, breaks down Speltzer's defenses, and makes it seem as though they have a kindred spirit when it comes to wanting to hurt women. Knowing that Deb will be coming in next to interrogate Speltzer, Angel sets it up to seem as if Deb is an annoying woman who needs to be put in her place, something Speltzer would not be likely to resist if she pressed the right buttons. Angel even re-entered the room with Deb, standing behind her and mocking her, squawking to remind Speltzer that he was on his side. And in the moment, Angel's strategy worked. When Deb starts picking at a sore spot for Speltzer, his mother's promiscuity, he snaps. He jumps at Deb and says that he should have killed her like he killed his other victim. He was completely torn down by Angel's little act. By the time Deb came in there, Speltzer was so ready to hate Deb that her words about his mother broke that already very thin ice. When he lunged at her and made that statement, it seemed all but binding, and it wouldn't have been possible without Batista's groundwork. Of course, we all know that Batista has nothing but love for Deb, but he is able to look into the eyes of a killer and manipulate him so thoroughly that he incriminated himself when they otherwise had no evidence to pin him down. Batista gave a master class in interrogation that day, and although the confession from Speltzer didn't stick, it was completely unrelated to Batista's performance. Speltzer was able to slip through the cracks again because of screw-ups by the uniformed officers that arrested him.
And apparently Speltzer's planning to file a lawsuit against us.
Use of excessive force?
Batista, however, did an unimpeachable job, and that isn't the only time he was pivotal in an important investigation. Only this time, he was unwittingly on the side of the killer, his old hermano, Dexter Morgan. By the middle of season 7, Maria LaGuerta is on to Dexter. She never believed that James Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher. She knew him personally and couldn't fathom him doing the sick and twisted things that the Butcher was known to have done. So when she found a blood slide at the crime scene for Travis Marshall's suicide, she knew in her gut that it was no suicide at all. The Bay Harbor Butcher was still active, and that would mean that she was right about Dokes' innocence all along. From there, she became obsessed with finding the real BHB. They already knew that it was a member of Miami Metro's homicide department. They already knew that the killer owned a boat, and they had relative death dates for the victims they found, so they knew approximately when the killer would have had to be in the city to have committed them. It was only a matter of time until Maria used all of that information to narrow her search down to only one name. She knew it had to be Dexter, but no one, from former Deputy Chief Matthews to Sergeant Batista, supported her seemingly insane theory. They had known Dexter personally for years, and the Dokes theory was almost completely rock solid. They had no interest in reopening that case, and they couldn't convince themselves that the Dexter they'd known all this time was a monster. None of their naysaying swayed her, however. Maria still decided to pursue Dexter against all odds. So one morning, after believing him to have killed Hector Estrada, Maria arrested Dexter and brought him in for questioning. The team could hardly believe their eyes, but she perp walked him right through the station and told her employees to stand down. But once she got Dexter into the interrogation room, Angel was there and tried to protect Dexter from Maria's vitriolic obsessive digging. He tried to get Maria to back off. He told Dexter not to say another word. He wanted to protect Dexter from the overzealous nature of Maria's investigation. He had no way of knowing that Dexter was actually guilty and that Maria was spot on. With the limited knowledge that he had, he stood up for his friend and also tried to steer Maria away from the investigation altogether. He was a caring friend to both of them and only wanted to see the best for two people he loved, even if they were at odds with one another. He is a good cop, a better friend, and he can field both sides of the interrogation table when necessary. Batista truly was a fantastic detective. That is something he would prove after he gained reasonable suspicion that Maria had been right all along. Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher. By the time we see Dexter again in New Blood, Batista reached the rank of captain and was traveling, giving talks regarding the Bay Harbor Butcher case. He was a more than respectable choice for the job, and he definitely deserved it after all the years he put in with the force. Unfortunately for Dexter, his then girlfriend, Chief Angela Bishop, decided to attend one of the cop conventions Batista was slated to speak at. They bumped into each other when she decided to pick his brain about her missing girls case from Iron Lake. During their discussion, Batista let it slip that one of his old colleagues had died, leaving behind a cute kid named Harrison. Angela had just met Harrison earlier that week. She couldn't help but make the connection that her boyfriend's secret estranged child had the same name. From there, she started looking very closely into the man she had only come to know as Jim Lindsay. But after speaking with Batista, she had a feeling that Jim was actually Dexter, and the rest is history. She investigated every area of Jim's life, confirmed that his name was really Dexter, and figured that his violence towards a local drug dealer, combined with the recent disappearance of a popular local, couldn't all be coincidental. He was hiding something else. First his real name, then his son, and now more people are dying and missing from Iron Lake. The common denominator was Dexter. She put it all together and then called Batista back to blow up Dexter's spot. She let him know that Dexter was still alive and using a fake name across the country. Angel couldn't make sense of why Dexter would fake his own death and flee Miami. He needed answers. Angela says she believes that Dexter is the butcher, given that now two intelligent and experienced law enforcement officers had now accused Dexter of the same, and people seemed to vanish everywhere he went. Batista knew something wasn't right. He flew right up to Iron Lake to confront Dexter, but before he got the chance, Harrison shot Dexter, leaving him in a coma. And Angela took the blame, recanted her suspicions, and skipped town with her daughter. Dexter was getting away with it all again, and Angel wasn't about to watch that happen. Almost as soon as Dexter came out of his coma, Batista was there, ready to ask Dexter all of the questions he intended to ask him 10 weeks before. With or without Angela's help, Batista was going to get to the bottom of whatever Dexter was hiding. When he encounters Dexter in the hospital, his impeccable interrogation skills are on display yet again. He starts by offering Dexter his favorite sandwich after giving him a big bear hug. With his defenses lowered, Dexter is more open with Angel than he expected, but is still cagey, obviously holding something back. He is almost too smooth as he asks Dexter what he did with Deb, why he faked his death, and to confirm that they both agreed that Dokes was the butcher. He had Dexter spooked and he knew it. In fact, Dexter had to stage a fake phone call and sneak out of the hospital window to avoid Batista. When the receptionist tried to hold Angel in the waiting room, he storms into Dexter's room and sees that he escaped. Angel was a step behind Dexter, but he was no fool. Eventually, with the help of Teddy, he tracks Dexter's truck to New York City. That leads him to Harrison, which eventually leads him to Dexter. When Batista found out where Dexter is living, Dexter wasn't there, but Batista wasn't giving up. He endears himself to Blessing, and by the time Dexter gets home, they are upstairs salsa dancing together. Batista dancing is classic Dexter, but that wasn't what made this moment so amazing. It was when he said, "Surprise, hermano," upon seeing Dexter when the true greatness began. As Dexter drives Angel back to his hotel, even after Dexter threatens him, Batista refuses to give up his pursuit. He slips his AirPods into the side pocket of the passenger side door, fully intending to keep tracking Dexter until he catches him in the act, just like Dokes and Maria before him. In that moment, Batista basically dug his own grave, but he entered a rare echelon of the innocent people who would die knowing the truth about Dexter. One can only hope that it was worth it. Batista was a father and a husband before Leon killed him. Quinn, Claudette, and even Dexter tried to tell him to go home, but his obsession with the case, paired with his obvious desire to finally get justice, superseded his better judgment. He didn't deserve to go out that way, but the fact that he did only emphasizes exactly everything we have come to love about Batista. His unyielding yearning to make things right, his savvy in the field, his undying dedication to his friends, alive and otherwise. In Dexter Resurrection, Batista exemplified all of his best memorable traits while also evolving in other ways before our eyes. His dynamism was captivating, and there is no doubt that his presence in the Dexter universe will be sorely missed. If you like this video, check out our breakdown of the biggest plot holes in Dexter Resurrection. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.